What do you believe it means to be a man in 2025?
The one thing I had was this hunger to make my life better. How can I make things better? How can I be happier? How can I have more fun? How can I have more enjoyment? How can I have less stress?
After you did that, did your life totally change?
And I called my dad and I was like, you did all these things to me when I was a kid. He was like, oh, I hadn't realized. And I'm really sorry.
David, I am so excited to get into things today. What do you believe it means to be a man in 2025?
Yeah, man, that's a big question now, isn't it? What we're seeing is like a lot of us kind of grew up. I'm 41 years old. So I saw this very much like, a masculine man is to act a certain way and you embody these masculine traits like leadership, having it all together, not asking for help, all these sorts of things.
Yeah.
Plus some of the kind of control, dominance, being kind of sexually active, all those things we kind of got brownie points for as young men, especially in our 20s, right? And
Mm-hmm.
what we're seeing now is that those things don't work. They don't lead to the joy and happiness, like, or just going towards making more money, like buying the shiny things, like having the facade of a really great life is a part of it as well. So many men, and even myself, we strive for this. Like, that's what makes me a good man. And then we do those things and we're like, actually, I don't feel good. I feel empty. I feel sad. I feel disconnected from things. So what I'm seeing more and more now, and I see for myself in the kind of journey I've been on, my clients go on, is what it means to be a man now is like, well, what lights you up, right? What feels like in alignment to you? What feels mission led in your life to be doing? Like that's one of the key pillars is like living and doing. It doesn't necessarily have to be work, like when we come from, you see like David Data's work, where the superior man, he had this thing about mission being number one. And I think it's really important. I think a lot of men took that as, oh, my mission must be my work. It doesn't have to
Mm.
be, your mission can be your family. That could be the most important thing for you is like cultivating and stewarding a great family. So I think it's having a really clear kind of mission and passion that you live for, that you would, die on a hill, that you would go to battle for. I think is a really important part of being a kind of modern, integrated and connected man. And I'd probably go in to say, the capacity to lead your family, to lead
Mm.
other people, to lead yourself, most of all, right? And I think we've gone beyond the kind of control and independence piece now. And we're seeing there's a higher way to be is like interdependent. How can I create greatness with other people? Right. I'm not going to just lone wolfing it on my own, but like, how can I connect with other people to create greatness in my life, in their lives, where I can rely on them and they can rely on me, right? And I become a reliable and I become someone who's capable and masterful in certain skills, but someone who is like at a level of consistency, right, in us as well. And I think another aspect of that is definitely being, this great modern man is emotional range, right? And I
Mm.
think like in this time now, I think a lot of men hear this like being more emotional, being more vulnerable, and they flip towards the opposite end and going, oh, well, do you want me to be crying all the time and just emoting all the time? And I'm always like, well, no, because that's not really functional to live a good life, right?
Right.
But the opposite of that is like not feeling anything, being super stoic. Like, I've seen men come to me and they're like, I just broke up with my partner. And I'm like, how do you feel? And they're like, I don't know. They're
Mm.
just gone now. Oh, their stuff isn't here. And you're like,
Yeah.
you're not feeling anything, right?
Yeah.
And I say to them, oh, why did your partner break up with you? And they're like, well, they didn't really feel like we were really connected. And I was like, how long have you been together? Like 3 years. You're like, wow, okay. So that's one end of the spectrum that doesn't work. What I'm calling for, and I see men that really function well, is range. Like they have the ability to really feel deeply and be like, oh my God, like this is something that really matters to me. This really excites me. My child's been born. I'm in tears of joy and happiness, while also having the capacity to, in the moments that really need them to be just deeply present and there for other people potentially, to be able to just hold what they're feeling and allow it to be there, allow it to be observed, in this very kind of meditative way as the observer. Like I'm feeling a deep anger in conflict with my partner.
Mm.
I'm going
Mm-hmm.
to observe that anger. I'm not just going to react to that anger and become angry and start throwing things. That's also a capacity. So it's that range of emotionality of feeling and being with and knowing when the right time is to bring the feeling, the total feeling in the moment, and to just step back a little bit and let it be an emotion that kind of comes up and kind of goes away. Um, and I think, God, there's so many things. Like, I think there's a level of like service, generosity and service. We're calling for more and more in this world, like men who are willing to stand up for what's right,
Mm.
like stand up for good causes that go beyond themselves. So like being in service something greater than you. For some people, that's religion. For some people, that is social justice. But like I think often we will shy away from that because of the fear of rejection or judgment and ridicule. Um, that can come with those sorts of things of putting a stake in the sand and going, this thing is wrong and I'm going to stand up against that. And, you know, it can be really a tricky thing to do.
That's so spot on. And I didn't want to stop because you're hitting like every single thing. Can you think of a time where you realized that you were living out of alignment with living this old version of what masculinity meant and that it wasn't actually true to who you were or what it is you wanted to actually achieve?
I feel like there's multiple junctures, but there's definitely one that I remember quite starkly. I think I was about 25 or 26 years old. And at the time, I was living in this really lovely apartment that I own. And I'd just been on a date and we'd slept together. And I'd like left the bedroom. She was sleeping. I left the bedroom to go and get a drink and some biscuits. I used to love eating biscuits in the night. And I was sitting on my sofa and I looked around and I was like, oh man, I started to feel this
Mm.
sadness and emptiness of sitting there. And it was a period of my life where I was probably sleeping with a lot of women. You know, I was in a tech job that I didn't enjoy that much, that paid well.
Yeah.
I was starting to like invest in property and so forth. So on the outside, like everything looked like it was going well. And I was like, man, this feels empty. This is how my dad lives, right? And I'd spent a lot of my kind of childhood being like, I don't want to be like my dad. And this real big father wound with my dad and him,
Mm.
you know, he has 5 kids and like he has never been married. He's never really lived with any of his kids and so forth. So I felt this pain of like, oh my God, I'm living the life that I've seen my dad live that caused me pain. I'm disconnected. I am not as connected to my family as I'd like to be. I'm out here with lots of different women without any responsibility. And I'm actually a little bit lonely. And I realized in that moment, I was like, wow, I really want something different. I want a different experience to this. You know, it was a moment of like, oh, I'm getting all this kind of man points from other men around like sleeping with lots of
Mm.
women. I traveled a lot and I enjoyed myself. And, but also that was just like on the outside because that's what I thought I needed to do and be to be seen as a good man, to be like a man that other men looked up to.
What made you
And
want to go to Landmark in the first place? You're getting the man points. Everything's great
yeah,
on paper.
the one I had was this hunger to make my life better, right? The one thing I already had was this hunger to make my life better that kind of came from the childhood of lack, the childhood of like not having enough money, my
Okay.
parents not being together, and like seeing poor marriages and relationships, and seeing like, oh, wait, I can make my life better through my own agency instead of blaming the world.
Mm,
So I was
yeah.
interested in reading books and taking on information about, you know, finance and property and business and coding and all these sorts of things. And a friend of mine, how its story goes, is I was traveling through Scandinavia having a wonderful time. And a friend of mine called me when I was in Iceland and he was like, hey, man, like, what's been going on? He's like, you know, see you in Iceland. I was like, yeah, man, I'm good. Really good friend of mine. We're still really good friends. And he was like, I just did this weekend and it was like amazing.
Mm.
He said it was amazing. I think you'd love it. And I tell you, in that moment, that's the level of trust I have in this friend. In that moment, I was like, okay, I'm going to sign up and do it.
Did your friend mention that of like, hey, David, this is going to make you quote unquote better? And did he go into detail or did he say, hey, man, you just got to go to this thing?
So he said one thing to me that was really powerful. One of the things that really kind of bonded us is our difficult relation with our fathers. I remember him saying, I was like, what did you get out of it? He was just like, you know, all this stuff I have with my dad. I called my dad up. I told him how I
Mm.
felt. And I was like, what? He was
Yeah.
like, yeah. And I was like, what happened? And he said to me, he's like, my dad said sorry and he's accepted. He's like, I want to understand more.
Mm.
And just due to like my dad, he's in my life, but he's somewhat deeply emotionally absent.
Right.
So that was always a point of friction for me throughout my childhood of like, you're not around, you don't come to my sports stuff, you're not present. Like you say you're going to show up for things and you don't. So this has always been like, so when
Mm-hmm.
he said that to me that day, I was like, okay, so this has helped with your relationship with your dad. That's something that would be beneficial to me. And partly
Okay.
it's strange, right? Because I had just held a lot of anger towards my dad at that point. So it's almost like a deeper part of me heard those words and was like, ah, this is something that calls you towards it. Because I can see how at that same age I could have also been like, ah, I don't care about my dad, but something was there. So, you know, I was just sort of started to see life in this way of like, how can I make things better? I was really open to like going to workshops and so forth, even if I just thought it'd add like another 5% to my life.
Why not do this definition of better of, I think what you and I would agree is like the toxic masculinity stuff. Just suppress the feelings. Like your feelings are the problem. The problem is not that these need to be fixed. These just need to go away even more. And what you really need, David, is you just need more money. You just need more success. Like you need more man points, essentially, and all those things will go away. Why, at least at this moment, were you kind of drawn to that?
Logically, when I think about it, it's like, oh, this relationship with my dad, I wanted that to be different. And I think more than anything, what I wanted was I wanted to stand up to him. I wanted the courage to say to my dad, like, you did this stuff to me and I don't like it and I don't like you for it. And that's exactly what I got. That's one of the most powerful things I got. I had a phone call with my dad during the program, during the
Yeah.
weekend. And I called my dad and I was like, you did all these things to me when I was a kid. You said these things to me in, you know, in front of headmasters. You didn't come to my graduation. And I'm really angry at you for it. And I was in tears. Right.
Mm-hmm.
This would have been the first time I cried in years. And I'm really angry at you. And my dad did something that he'd never done before. He was like, oh, I hadn't realized and I'm really sorry. There was just this moment of silence. I was like, my dad has never said sorry to me in his whole life up to that point. And I was like, oh God, what? Wow, he just said sorry to me. But I didn't realize how much I needed to hear those words, and I didn't know how much I needed to say those words as well.
After you did that, did your life totally change?
No, the next day I said that to my dad, and I invited him to the evening, like the one that my friend had invited me to. And my dad showed up.
Was it awkward?
No, the craziest thing happened was about 10 minutes into the presentation, my dad just got up and walked out. Didn't say a word.
Oh, wow.
Just got up and walked out. Me, 2 weeks before that, a week before that, I would have been so angry at him. I would have been so furious at what he did and would be like, never talking to him again. And he got
Mm-hmm.
up and he walked out that door and people looked at me. And then the break came. Everyone's like, you're okay. And I was like, yeah, I'm fine. I'm just happy he came. And from that day on, our relationship, the trajectory of our relationship dramatically changed.
What would you say that you got from that event that was counterculture, opposite of what you've been told of what it really means to be a man?
One of the biggest things I took from that event was like, I'm not my thoughts and feelings. That I think kind of
Did
loosened
that scare
something.
you?
Oh man, I was like, there's a moment where the facilitator they're talking and they're like, look, we've got something to tell you. Like, and the way they drop it is
Yeah.
so beautifully dramatic. They're like, you're not your thoughts and feelings. And then there's like a silence. And it's like after 2.5 days of being there, and then people, they're like, you can get up on the mic and talk. And people are livid. They're like,
Oh,
what do you
yeah.
mean? What have I been doing all my life? Like, what's all
Yeah.
this stuff I've been doing? And they're like, you're making it all up. None of that's really happening. And people are like angry and like,
Oh,
no,
yeah.
this is a whole waste of time. People storm out. I remember what the facilitator said. They were like, you're just some guy, I was wearing a green hat. You're just a guy in a green hat that's making meaning out of the world and your thoughts and feelings. And I remember standing there being like, oh my God, that's really true. I can see how I do that. And I think what that started to shift in me then was these thoughts and feelings I was having about what I needed to do as a man around, especially around work, is like you have to do something that you don't enjoy. You can't do something you love and enjoy. And I think that set me on a path of like trying a lot of different things and trying to find a path of work and vocation that was in deep alignment with me. After that, I tried to get involved with schools and teaching them about finance and teaching young boys about kind of hopes and dreams and aspirations. And that was like really tricky and difficult. And I think the piece around masculinity and men, that didn't really ignite in the way until I was probably in my early 30s. A good friend of mine, my friend who sent me to Landmark, he was like, we should take all this information we've learned around self-development and all this stuff we've learned about dating, and we should create a podcast. And I was like,
Mm.
all right, man, that'd be fun. I like talking. We created a podcast and I kept learning and I kept diving into masculinity, and I started to see this socialization for men, right, around masculinity that really divorces us from our feeling capacity, that
Mm.
divorces us from anything that we view as feminine, and how painful and hurtful that is, not to us men individually, not just to our relationships, but the world at large, right? How much damage that does. And as I've just like keep cycling on this and keep looking at myself, because I never stop looking at myself about this. It's like there's so many layers to this and depths to it. And you know, when I get stressed, do I just go back to old patterns, like all this, and you start to realize like being a man is hard. And we don't even often as men want to say that being a man is hard, because we feel like we can't say it's hard because then somehow that's us like chickening out of what it is. We should just put up and shut up. But actually, that's part of the problem, that we don't talk about the experience of being a man and how hard it is, and how the way we got to like separate ourselves from our feeling just so we can feel some acceptance. And
Is there anything that you think we can say to that person that's listening that has a definition of vulnerability being weakness? I
how's your
mean,
life about it? How is it? Is it okay? Do you feel connected to the people in your life? Do you long for something else? Like what's there? What's missing in, from a relational point of view? That's the glue that makes relationships special, right? I think a lot of men can, if you say, have you got a relationship in your life that's like special to you? If it's a friendship, whether it's like an old friend or something like that, that really means something to you, you feel really connected to. Most 99% of men will go, yeah, actually, there's this like one dude, or, even a partner. When you start to dive into it, what makes it special? And they're like, oh, I feel like I can be myself to some degree with this person where I can't be with other people. And you're like, well, what happens if more of your relationship in your life could be like that? You could feel that safety, that joy, that openness with more people in your life. What would your life be like? How would you feel waking up in the morning, going into work, being with your partner? Not whether it's possible. Stop. Don't go into like the solution and the possibility and
right.
how, but just like how would life be better for you if that was what's possible for you?
I would agree. Everything that's happened in my life was because of what we're talking about being vulnerable. And I would actually challenge that weakness is your running and hiding from stuff. Like that's really what weakness is I'm not strong enough. So the fact that you can't be vulnerable and you see that as a weakness to me is just a convenient cop out. Let's talk about what's really hard because it's so much easier to suppress than it is to actually face these things.
And you have to face the fear, right?
Right.
The fearless man is like, oh, I'm not afraid of doing it. It's like, well, what? Why won't you then? Like,
Right.
you'll jump out the plane, you'll create business, all these things to be fearless. What I often say to men is like, nearly every man I meet wants to be courageous, wants to be seen as courageous, right? We see that's a very masculine trait, like having courage, right? But it takes a huge amount of courage, just like you're saying, to be vulnerable.
Because you don't know what they're going to say on the other side. Are they going to accept it? Are
Mhm.
they going to reject it? Are they going to judge you? Like you're saying, now you have to make sense of a story based upon their reply. I think you're an idiot. I can't believe you said that. What medium am I going to assign that? Oh, I'm a loser. I'm this. I'm that. They're this. It's frightening, but it's also the most beautiful thing. Like you have your child now. Like I can't tell you anything better in the world that is unpredicted, unplanned, unorchestrated. But when my kids will come up and say, Daddy, I love you, there's literally nothing in this world that is as beautiful as that. And that was unpredicted, unplanned, all this. And so I think the more that we can have that courage to jump into these conversations with that same just sense of openness of like, let's see what's going to happen. It might be something that, because there can be other moments where my kids come and say, Daddy, you're the worst daddy in the world. That hurts. But when you have clarity under who you are, how you're showing up, now you can challenge that story. But maybe they do say it of Daddy, you are the worst daddy. And I'm like, wait a minute, let me take stock. Oh, yeah, that was kind of unfair. That was bad of me. Or they say it and I'm like, you're two. Like, of course you're upset about this. Like, yeah, I get that. But I'm not going to let the outcome of this define who I am.
How
Shoot.
do you feel that your increased like emotional capacity and openness has kind of impacted your kids in comparison to if you had had them and you hadn't been that open and emotionally available?
I used to think, because I was so big on being bigger, better, best my entire life. In my mind, I thought I was being the best father, the best husband possible based upon what I was capable of. I suppress everything about myself. I just give because I was really good at doing stuff. And it wasn't until I realized that, like, I thought that the love that I was giving my kids was the maximum capacity that I could have. Until I learned how to love myself, I realized that it was just a trickle. Like I had no idea how much love I was actually capable of handing out, but I didn't know how to fill up my cup. At 30, this is just who I am. This is all I knew. Like all I did was be stoic. I just pushed myself, just more success, more money, more. And that's just the way it was. I was so empty. Like I say, I had everything, but I felt nothing. And so, but I was okay with that. And it wasn't until I had my daughter, and once I had my daughter, I finally felt something that I thought all the money, all the success was going to finally make me feel. And I didn't have to do anything. I didn't have to be anyone or achieve anything to get this love from this child. And I was like, wow, this is so weird. And I remember because I was in therapy because my wife and I were having our issues. And so I was talking to my therapist of that, I wanted to protect my daughter and all this. And she goes, Creighton, you can say and do whatever you want to your daughter of telling her she's amazing and all the stuff that you don't believe about yourself. But she is a descendant of you. So she's pretty intelligent and she's going to pick up on how you treat yourself, how you deal with things. So you can try to lie to her all you want, but there's going to be an age where she starts picking up on your tendencies. This is how you've been, but do you want to keep being that for the rest of your life? And I was like, I will do anything in my power so my daughter never has to feel the way that I feel about myself. And this is what I've noticed from so many men. Like, they can't do it for themselves. I couldn't do it for me, David. I could do it for my daughter, Kyla. It's like the most beautiful thing, though. Like, by doing it for her, it ended up making me be reborn and being able to love myself. I couldn't love myself for myself, but I could do it for her. And at some point, it stopped being for her. And I realized that this was all for me.
A mirror of my story is a lot of men I find come to do the work in a moment of extreme pain.
Oh, yeah.
And that pain commonly is relationship breakdown.
Mm,
So, like a relationship that they liked being in, breaking down, really common, death of a parent. And they're like, wait, I'm not living. Like, I could live a bit more.
mm,
Um, or some life event that creates that, a death of a friend as well. But the most common one is relationship breakdown. So it's like
uh,
they experience a huge amount of pain, and there's like a mirror that they glimpse, like a shard of it reflect to them, that they see that how they really are being, and they also feel that something could be different. That's the really common one. They come and they're like, I was in this relationship and I liked her and it could have been really great, but I just couldn't do the things she needed. And she told me these things and I never listened. And then now it's over. And I realized that it was all my fault. I want a different way of being. So it's usually for me, it's like this great pain that occurs. And it's usually relationship breakdowns, probably like 8% of the guys that come to me. It's like some form of relationship breakdown. They come.
and
Then it's like, how can I just feel better now? Because what it is what's happened is through the kind of stoic unfeeling, they've experienced a pain like nothing before,
mhm.
and they can't do anything to get rid of the pain. They can't just like work harder, or they've
Yeah.
tried and it hasn't worked for them. And they're like, I need to get rid of this pain. I need to get rid of it. I need something else. The loss and the pain become unbearable and they want something else. That seems to be really common. Um, they are often men who want to have a family. It's a really common thing is men who
Mm,
want to have a family, and they see that the way they're being is not conducive to them having a family, a good family, because they would probably end up like usually their father.
right.
And it's like a double whammy of like this relationship. I think it could have been the one. We could have got married and had
Mm.
kids. That's not going to happen because I can see that I'm being somebody, often their father, a man that, and I don't want to do that to my future kids because that's what was done to me.
What can you think of like are a few practical steps that someone can take to start breaking free of just wanting to continue to get more man points?
It's a hard one because I think there needs to come a point where you decide that those man points aren't that important. You have to realize it's not serving you, right? Because you can keep going down the rabbit hole of like building up more band points, bring up, but you have to come to some mirror of like, actually, this isn't what I want, right? Falling in love is an incredibly powerful way to pull a man out of the cycle
Yeah.
of, for me, it was, my thing was like womanizing, right? That was the way that I really like got my energy, is like womanizing. And then what would snap me out of it would be like, I've met someone I really like and this could be a really beautiful relationship. And I would just run away. But sometimes, and this happened with my girlfriend who I traveled with, I ran away and I kind of came back, and I ran away and I came back, and she kind of held a boundary of like, hey, I'm not going to put up with this back and forth stuff.
Hmm.
And she was like, I think you're a great guy and I think we could be great. And I know you're afraid. And she just kind of, she
Wow.
spoke to what was there. She was like, I can tell you're afraid because you've told me about that you've got really hurt and you hurt your ex-partner and you don't want to do that to someone else. And I get that, but it doesn't have to be that way. And I remember where she told me, and it kind of made me kind of believe in myself, because there at a point there for me, there was like I wasn't really believing. So I think love, like connecting with somebody deeply that you want more with, work in the relationship space, and this can be a really powerful way for us to go, oh, wait a minute, this feeling I'm feeling right now, this feels really meaningful. Like it's scary, but actually,
Mhm.
this is, it's a bit like when you were talking about having a daughter. Like, wait, I got this feeling from not having to like be somebody or create a certain amount of money or buy something. I got this feeling of love by just being with this person and this person accepting me for who I am,
Mm.
and actually even mirroring that the stuff that I think is important, like money and the shiny stuff and all that, they're like, they don't really care about it. And then suddenly been like, the thing we're often afraid of is that we don't believe anyone's going to accept us for ourselves. So
Mm.
when we get a glimpse of that and that feeling with someone like who just wants us for who we are,
Yeah.
it suddenly kind of reflects something to us that we don't believe is possible. And I think that can be a really pivotal moment for us to go, wait, I can change something here. Something could be different. But it could be scary because it's very easy to run away from and like bury ourselves in work and so forth.
I think that's so good of just checking into your relationships and seeing, are they where you want to be? And if maybe your answer is, yeah, I'm happy being a womanizer or whatever, like I don't think there's anything that we could say. And then my challenge would be, I hope you become as miserable as possible. Because if I would have experienced, like you're talking about, so much pain, so much misery, like literally, it's sad state of affairs, but that's literally how we want to change. That I hope someone hurts you. I hope something terrible happens so that you can realize what you're actually capable of. What do you think is a practice that's helped you personally drop deeper into, let's say, authenticity or more emotions inside your relationships?
What comes to mind, strangely, actually, is meditation, Vipassana meditation in particular. That's
Okay.
really like
What one's
made.
that for someone that doesn't
Oh,
know?
so you have, often the meditation we do is just like on the breath, on the nose, like feeling our breath coming in and out. And Vipassana kind of takes it one step further, and it's about feeling the sensations in the body. And it's like a scanning practice. And often people go and do like a 10-day silent meditation retreat, which feels super hard. It is super hardcore, but it's a small thing that, someone can read about. But what it is you're actually feeling the body. So you become incredibly well attuned and sensitive to the shifts and changes in the body. So after that, I was just so in tune emotionally, even down to like, I'm feeling, I think I'm going to be hungry in about 3 hours. Like I could just feel that change in my stomach of like, oh, I'm going to need some food in 3 hours. But
Mm.
it also made me really attuned to my emotions, how they would show up in the body, because what we don't always realize is we're living from the head, right? So we don't feel the emotions because we're kind of completely disconnected from the body. So as a practice for passive meditation, coming back to the sensation of the body, just brings alive the variety of responses and reactions emotionally that are occurring. And that's been like absolutely golden for me, because I've been able to both feel them, but also stay in that presence and groundedness of like, noticing them. Like, especially with shutdown, right? With emotional shutdown. We shut down because we're scared, we're terrified, we're frustrated. But with the presence, you go, oh, look, there's that sensation that just runs up my chest and tightens my heart. Oh yeah, I want to shut down and stop talking, but I'm present to that. Okay, I can be with the sensation and I can stay present to my partner. I also think that, really simple practice if you're in relationship is like a regular relationship check-in. Super simple,
And
like,
scary.
and incredibly scary. But it's like sitting in front of your partner with a few questions that you answer every month or every week, and you take some time in between to, like, each month you're taking some notes down of like what's going well, what's not gone well, which is the question that we all dread. What would you like to change? What would you like to feel more of? I think it's a good one as well in there as well, and you can kind of add to them. But just so you can sit down in front of your partner in a way that where you're fully listening, both to the good. Like they might say, I really love when you took out the trash, or you did it without me having to ask you. Like, I
Mm.
really appreciate that. And you fully there with them, listening, feeling the appreciation, feeling the gratitude, and hearing the bad stuff. And because the bad stuff, I think it makes us more resilient as well. Because when you're having that monthly kind of container for it, you can prepare yourself like, okay, I'm going to sit down. I might hear some terrible things. You're kind of resourced for it and you can listen. And your partner says, and it's never as bad as you think it's going to be. And you're with someone who wants to seek a solution with you. And I found that this has been such a beautiful practice for us because it means that resentments don't build, you don't get these massive resentments that build over time. Like the love flows way, way better because you're expressing gratitude on a regular basis. You feel like you're kind of in this team of like, how do we make this entity that's our
Mm.
relationship like more and more refined, more and more enjoyable for the two of us, giving us both what we want more and more. And I found it just really reduces the surprises. And it also makes us, makes me and also my clients more resilient to the like, the conversation of actually, there's this thing you did and that didn't really work for me. And if we do that in a really kind of conscious way of relating and listening, you're like, yeah, actually, I can see why that didn't feel good to you. I understand that. That might have not been my intention. So I find that's a really, really vital relationship practice I give to a lot of my clients to do when they're in relationship.
I've done that. Did you have that issue when you started to try to meditate, or for you, it was easy for you to be still?
Mm. I was just really determined. I think I first meditated, started meditating when I was quite young, actually.
Oh,
I think
wow.
I read a story about it and I got into it quite young.
Oh,
And for me, it wasn't too bad to kind of just sit down and meditate. And I know a lot of people, the mind is so busy, it's like whirling around. And I usually recommend for my clients who feel that way is I start them on breath work. I like to start something a bit more gentle that's like, just calming the nervous system because often they're just dysregulated and it's showing up in the mind. So just something that's like a slow inhale, exhale, like a heart coherence, which is like a 5.5 inhale and a 5.5 exhale of just regularly doing that. And I find with them is that over time, it's just that they're so dysregulated that sitting down for that amount of time is really difficult and their mind is super, super active. And there's somewhere they need to like journaling as well can be a useful one with a really busy mind because often it's just like there's so much shooting around your mind and you're never emptying it out.
yeah. For any man that's out here listening, if they can only remember one truth about what does it mean to be, let's use authentic man, what would it be?
One truth would be that your feelings aren't the enemy.
Oh, wow. That's beautiful. I love that. What's the legacy that you're hoping to leave behind with the work that you're doing for men?
I want men to experience relationship in a way that is loving, joyful, playful, and expansive. Whatever you're dealing with, there's someone else, there's hundreds or thousands of other men in the world that are feeling just like you. And keeping that to yourself and not sharing with anyone is not helping anybody else and it's not helping you. Like to reach out to for help, and there's nothing weak about getting help. The strongest men in the world, all the men you look up to, they are men who have coaches, they have mentors, they have helpers, they have therapists, multiple, most of them. Like, be like those dudes.
I love that. Cool. And for anyone that's listening and wants to get a hold of you, what's the best way for them to connect and get some coaching, get some help?
Yeah, best place to find me is on Instagram, at the authentic man underscore. I'm pretty active there. You can just drop me a message, drop me a DM, and we can have a chat.
Okay. Bro, love you, man. I can't thank you enough for taking the time to drop some wisdom and help all these high achievers learn the power of their feelings. And I love that you said that they are not the enemy.